Hi, I'm Ed Parcuat, your host of Inner Edison. What I think you take away from today's show is your greatest growth comes from your greatest failures. Today's guest is Steve Wiideman, or We the Man, right? We'll figure that out. And let's welcome him and get to know his journey and his story. And first of all, I want to thank you for being a veteran and serving in the United States Army, correct?
Right back at you, Ed. Great to be on the show, and thank you for serving as well.
Yeah, it's Navy, though. Let's just make sure that. And by the way, you guys lost this year. We lost last year. Who cares?
It's all fun.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of people that listens to the show is going to say, I have no idea who Steve is. Kind of give me your story. I'd like to know how I do another podcast that I was telling you called Helping the Brave. And we tell people, we want to know how they transitioned from what they were doing in the military to what they're doing today and how they did that, who helped them along the way. So you kind of have a story that would work there too, but kind of tell me how you got, because transitioning out of the military into something different for most people is a huge thing, because a lot of people lose their purpose. They're in, they have this purpose, they get out and they're like, I don't know what to do. I was lucky. I got my bachelor's and master's when I was in. And so I knew my purpose was outside of the military. So.
Yeah. So my story actually starts prior to even going in. I had a real interest in computers, back in the 80s. I had a Apple IIe and, it was a big
Crash 80s.
Oregon Trail. Remember that?
Yeah, dude.
I
was telling somebody the other day, I was doing a Cybex machine, and the physical therapy had a floppy drive that ran that.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yep. So I love computers, and I was doing some college even before I graduated. I was looking at junior colleges and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I'm like, I don't think I could sit here for another 4 years. I think I need to go out and do something. And so I walked into a recruiter office and got kind of convinced into being 11 X-ray, even though I know I probably could have done a different MOS, but it was what it was.
What's 11 X-ray? What's 11 X-ray? What's 11 X-ray?
Infantry, anything. That means we're going to put you in whatever the hell we want in as a foot soldier. It's generally not one of your medic type jobs or intelligence jobs. It is a grunt. and for me being from LA and literally like right across the street from Disneyland OC, wasn't exactly the greatest fit for me. I'm this 5'6" kid, and there's these 7-foot high infantry soldiers in there. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for me. But my interest in computers hadn't gone anywhere. I'm like, you know what, I'm here. I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna try to get through this thing, and made some incredible friends that I consider brothers today that I get to see whenever I travel around. We always get together, and those are friendships that are forever. And so I as I was, my ETS was coming up, I had to think, what do I want to do? And I'm filling out like job applications, a couple of weeks before the exit dates. And I'm like, all right, so I'm skilled in firing an M16A2. And is that going to be helpful in the job market? Probably not. So I know what you mean about that whole transition struggle of how do you take what you've learned in the military, aside from the character building and the discipline that you have, how do you take actual experience into the job market when your experience is, basically firing weapons all day? So it was really interesting. But I came at it really aggressively. I said, you know what? I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to take this newfound set of I can do anything, and I'm gonna apply for all sorts of jobs. I created, since I love computers, I created a little printout of a table that all the jobs I was applying for, the phone numbers to call, who I was speaking with, and I just kept following up and following up and following up. And like, wow, you really want this job? So by the time I got home, I had 3 jobs. I had a job in the morning at Service Merchandise, a store where I sold jewelry behind a counter. That was in the afternoons. In the mornings, I worked at Pacific Air Health Systems, now United Health, printing ID cards and so forth on print machines from old VAX and IBM computers. And then I had a weekend job at Target where I was just cutting trees. So, and you're 21, 22 years old, you've got tons of energy, you can do 3 jobs. Wasn't tied down to family and all that kind of stuff. So I just jumped right in, and I found the one that was something I really found passion in at Pacific Air, working with computers and printers, and eventually moved up very quickly, actually moved up in my job role, and eventually was a computer operator and focused specifically on basically migrating content from what was going to our printers to the internet. so that the folks who get their eligibility and capitation reports could all get them digitally, instead of waiting 5 days for it to be printed, go to a mail room, go to the post office, and that whole thing, saving the company roughly around $3 million a year in print costs in doing that. But that was when I'm sitting there and I'm migrating all these profiles that were going to printers to the web. And I'm like, I'll bet the whole damn world's going to be on this internet thing at some point. Every business is going to have a website. I've already been exploring web design because I think it's fun. I should probably see if I can get some friends that want me to build websites for them and start practicing. And next thing you know, I was the go-to. Everyone who knew me or knew someone who knew me said, I got a guy who does websites, early 2000s and so forth.
I was going to say late 90s.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah. Late 90s when we had the bevel and emboss buttons and the scrolling marquees and the animated GIFs everywhere,
I was just thinking about those the other day. I was like, God, how far we've come. I mean, I can do a live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at the same time, and everyone in the world can see it.
So. Yep. Yeah. And it's just incredible, the bandwidth we have now. You don't have to listen to get on the internet anymore, which is amazing. But
old handshake, by the way. If you didn't know what that sound was supposed to be, it was supposed to be a handshake.
Exactly. So that's that's kind of what happened. I had to make a decision. Am I going to just go back and go beg and grovel, or am I going to make a big list of every job opening I find in every classified section of every paper nearby and just pick up the phone and just be the aggressive soldier that I was? And that worked. I got a couple amazing jobs, picked one of them, and that turned into a career for me. And next thing you know, I got picked up by IBM Global Services, went back to school, got my degree in e-business management, and ended up at a job at Disney. Actually ran the paid ads in search for Disneyland.com, commerce, tickets, packages, reservations, and marketing, with a whole other business unit for Disneyland around grad night and new Nemo attraction and that sort of thing. And then I also worked with a new brand called Adventures by Disney, where I helped in the travel industry for family travel packages. So family travel to Ireland, hosted by a Disney tour guide, and it was fun. It was a really exciting, career. And the corporate world was okay to me, but it was limiting in what I felt I could do with myself. I felt like when you're in the Army, right, or any military branch, and you've got a job and you want to do it the best you can because there's people around you that are depending on you. Their lives depend on it. And you have this sense of urgency. You walked with a sense of urgency. You marched with a sense of urgency. It was no frills, straight to the point kind of thing. And in the corporate world, there's all sorts of political things, restrictions. You can't do things. You're training your boss. You're being told how to do your job by someone who doesn't know how to do it as well as you. It just wasn't I'm just not a good employee, right? I did my job. I was a good soldier, but I felt like I'm not living to my potential. In fact, I'm bored. I get done with my job in about an hour and a half, and I have to find stuff to do for the rest of the time because I'm just quick and I get the stuff done. So now I'm going into other departments and I'm helping people with their jobs. And, next thing you know, I'm like handling more than, half the people in the group. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to be closer to home with my family and try to do my own thing. 2010, I literally went down to the neighborhood businesses after I'd quit my job. And I said, hey, do you need help with digital marketing? Well, who the hell are you? Well, I work for Disney and IBM and what's the name for Dre? And they're like, well, sure, look at my website and tell me what you think. And after a few minutes, they trusted me. They knew I knew what I was talking about. And I raked in about 17K of new business in month one. And then I had to figure out how to do it all because by the end of month one, I hadn't done any work. I'd just been doing sales. So that was a real fun first week of work after getting those clients, scaling it back, of course, at some point to where it was manageable for me. But I took that leap of faith. I said, I want to be closer to home. I want to be a better father, a better, husband, and not have these crazy commutes. And I want to see what I'm capable of. I want to see if I can do this. And maybe in 10 years from now, I'll be able to teach, what I was able to do. Maybe I'll even write a book about it someday. And I did. I took that leap, and it's some scary moments, some really scary moments, and there's moments where you've got to go to your family and say, hey, my clients haven't paid their invoices. Can you help me out? And they help you through it. And I'm glad I had that support group in the beginning. Now I look back, last year, and even now, I I'm teaching 9 adjunct classes, 2 at Cal State Fullerton, 1 at UC San Diego, and 6 over at the community college here. I did write the book last year, so I have the first textbook for digital marketing students called SEO Strategy and Skills. My co-author Scott Cowley took all the great content I dumped into this thing and made it, translated it for students, and now we have, I think, somewhere close to 12 colleges, I think, have adopted the courseware and textbook into their online digital marketing curriculum. So I did what I had hoped I would have done, but it helped actually putting that timeline together of, where I wanted to be, and then every day looking at how close am I getting to hitting those goals. And I'll tell you, man, after 5 years, the first 5 years, I look back, I'm like, crap, I haven't gotten anywhere where I wanted to be, but I know I'm looking at the long term, but I'm so in the weeds and the trenches and doing the work that I haven't had time to focus on the growth of the big rocks. I was just doing, what was my job and not thinking about, my long-term objectives. And as soon as I started focusing on those, they almost happened naturally. I started getting phone calls from colleges. I started getting requests for people who wanted me to write books. And I don't know, it just divine, whatever you want to call it, it just happened. And I'm fortunate to be where I'm at now, 24 years later, right? I was able to do the corporate thing for a decade, and then make it on my own for a decade. And now I'm teaching and writing, and still have a crew of 9 and work with some pretty incredible clients like Applebee's and IHOP. And it's just been such a great journey. I've been rambling, but that's my story.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to interrupt. I usually interrupt, but you were doing really well, so I didn't want to interrupt you. Overnight successes. Everybody thinks their business is going to be overnight success. It takes 15, 20 years on average to build your business to where you want it to be. I had Brian Smith on, the UGG person that brought UGG to America.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, during that period of time, he lost the company for a few years, right? Because of something, then he had to get it back. It doesn't happen from here to here, straight to here. You have to work on it. Things happen. You go a different way. But what's nice is, as an entrepreneur, you can do what you want within reason. The thing I learned when I was in the Navy is I hated working for somebody to tell me what to do who was just there longer than me, but not smarter than me. Right. Yep. And that's what you run into in the corporate world, and why I didn't work really well there. Plus I have to shave every day usually. Or back then anyway, you'd have to wear the suits and stuff. But now it's like, I wear more t-shirts and stuff because I do so much video. I don't want you to know that I recorded it all in one day, or if it was 2 days, now you have no idea when I recorded it. Right. I think it's just, and the world now is totally different. I mean, do you think being in LA was a huge benefit, starting the digital stuff that you were doing because where you were located?
No, I don't think so. I think it made it harder. I felt like there's more of a desperation because of the high cost of living here. You feel like you really need it. You need the work, and you're willing to charge less for it. When I brought in a salesperson, I was selling these basically website marketing audits. I'd look at their website and their current marketing and see how things are going. I was charging like $500 for this audit. And it was the same level of audit that I had learned to build while I was working at Disney, a corporate level audit that I'm selling for $500. And so Mary came in, it's this amazing salesperson. And she's like, hey, you know what? I could help you sell those for $3,500, the same exact reports. And all I want is half. And I'm like, half is still a hell of a lot more than I was making at $500 a report. Let's go for it. And we did. We sold a ton of those things. But I was in the beginning, I was so desperate for the work because of the high cost of living that I would take, any client I would discount, right? Because I thought, hey, that would help me close the deal if I sold for less. But the moment you start discounting, is the moment clients realize they can start taking advantage of you, and they treat you that way the rest of the time that you work with them. So my suggestion, my learning from that is, don't ever discount your work. And a friend of mine, Scott Sorrell, they call him Mr. Charge Higher Prices. It's instilled that as a kind of a principle in how you run your business, is never discount. You can add value, right? You can add an extra month of something or add an extra add-on, but don't ever, discount what you're worth. Once you've established what your value is, don't go down on that, because the clients will treat you that way, and then it becomes a habit, and then you never really make what you deserve. But yeah, that was a big challenge in being in Los Angeles, was that there's such a high cost of living that you'll take what you can get. Whereas if I lived in an area where rent was maybe, I don't know, $1,500 a month,
Is there a place like that?
yeah, oh, I'm sure there's still some places like that. I hope to find them when my kids graduate high school and I can get the hell out of the city. But yeah, that's, there's places like that where the rent's reasonable. The houses out here to rent are starting around $3,000 a month, and it's a lot.
By the way, I lived in San Diego for 18 years. I know
Oh,
exactly how expensive,
yeah,
and I actually lived on Topanga Canyon Boulevard for a
Oh,
year.
no
So
way.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've lived all over California, and I know exactly how expensive. But I'm gonna let you know right now, our average price here in Modesto for a rent of the house is almost 2,500. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so across the board, rents have went ridiculously up.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah,
It seems
and
that way.
it just seems like the reason I was thinking about LA is just you have access to so many different companies and so many more people there that you had more access to do that kind of stuff and be seen. That's all I was wondering.
But we're talking about the online world though, right? So
Right.
everything that I did, all the clients I worked with were all over the world. OSMED conferences in Australia, Shine Business Directory or Business Job Board in India at the time. We had clients all over the place. We had a company called Computer Trends in Canada. Skechers, who we worked with, based out of Manhattan Beach. They were close, but they didn't hire us because we were in La Mirada. They didn't even know where we were located. They hired us because of what we were able to accomplish in my experience, working at Disney. So for my industry, it didn't matter where I was. In fact, some of my most accomplished peers are in some of the strangest places in the world, like Puerto Rico and stuff now, and Thailand and Bali. They're living, their dream, doing what they do best, and they don't need to be in a certain place to have better access to things. As long as there's a good internet connection, they can, do amazing.
Right. And that's I think the biggest thing is the internet connection. We still have it. Someday we'll have amazing everywhere, but we still run into that a little bit. Even up here. I mean, I have times where I was doing a live. I was completely black. You could hear my voice. And it was just because I hired an editor for all my stuff in house. Right. I'm like, what the heck? He was uploading all of our stuff at the same time. And your upload is,
the
upload's only this big. Right. And your download's huge, but the upload is much smaller. And so you have to, there's still issues, but
that's so funny. I got some old AOL CDs I could send you if you need
I
more
appreciate
bandwidth.
that. Dude, I have 800. It's ridiculous what I have. I pay for a gig, but the issue is still the upload is what gets you, right?
Yep.
They think the download's the most part. No, I'm uploading stuff, not downloading.
Every time.
So looking at what you did and looking back, is there anything you would have changed?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that would have changed. I could have saved myself a ton of time if I would have talked to other agency owners in the beginning, if I would have talked to people who were already where I wanted to be and took some level of mentorship or apprenticeship with them instead of being the gung-ho, I know everything, I can do everything on my own. I would have saved a lot of money. I would have saved a lot of time. I would have made more money. But I just decided to go off on my own and do my own thing and learn the hard rocks. So I would say for anyone who's starting on their own, talk to the people who are already successful. An easy way to do that, books, right? Look at the authors of some of the books in the industries. You'd be surprised at how much availability book writers have. I mean, I'm writing books. I have time, right? I make tons of time to help students and, people who want to learn, the next generation of digital marketers. So start with those people who've authored books on the topics. And if they can't help you, they'll probably refer you to some people who can, because they studied under those people to be able to write their book. So I would say start with those. You could also start with people who speak at conferences. So if there's an industry conference in, whether you're in digital marketing or somewhere else, look at who's on the speaker lineup and talk to them and say, hey, I saw that you're a speaker on this topic, and this is something I really want to explore as a career. Do you have any internship opportunities? Can I volunteer some time and do some things? There's a guy on our team right now, Lee. Lee is a rock star. He's living in Hawaii, and he's giving us maybe 30, 40 hours a week right now as he's learning how to do some of the things that we do. And when he came on board in the beginning, he didn't even want any money. He's like, just teach me. I want to do this stuff. I want to learn. I'm like, I can't keep just giving you work and you not getting paid for it. So eventually we brought him on as a contractor, and he's probably one of the top guys on the team. He's a sponge for knowledge. He wants to learn. He wants to explore, and he was willing to put in the time, to be able to learn and practice, without getting paid for it. And that's kind of what I did in my freelance days, right? I worked for free for friends and small businesses just because I was really interested in learning it and passionate about it. And eventually people came to me and said, "Hey, how much do you charge?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I've never charged." But yeah, I would say that's the one thing. The other one is I would definitely look at doing some level of a business plan. You don't need that whole formal business plan that you would give to someone who would invest, but just something to give you a guideline on where you want to go and how you want to operate your finance, your HR, your marketing efforts, legal. What are the requirements? What are the licenses I need? Just do a little bit of that research, because it can come back and bite you. It hadn't happened to us, but a few times questions came up about things like insurance. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. I'm just a digital marketer, but apparently I have an office and I need insurance. So, I learned those things along the way. But if I hadn't, at some point it could have came back and cost me a lot. Or if somebody gotten injured on site, it could have been a huge thing. And if I didn't have insurance, it would have hurt. So I think doing your research to make sure that you've got, all the foundation things you need for your business to be successful squared away. Once they're there, you don't have to worry about them anymore. They're there. They're going to do their thing. You don't have to keep obsessing over them. They're top of mind. You have a place in Google Drive somewhere where you keep track of it all, and then you can focus on what you enjoy, the part of the job that you're really passionate about. What else were some learnings?
Well, it's funny because most people go, "What's workers' comp?" when you start a business. What's this?
Right. Yeah,
and the reason I laugh about it, because been in business many times, and one of my business partners, she was the most stingiest, cheapest guys. We don't need that. And it's like, it didn't catch us. But when I started my own, it's like the first thing I got was everything you needed for insurances, everything, because I didn't want to have a problem. Right.
I think another challenge is resourcing, right? And I think one of the big things that businesses fail to do is to hire the right expertise. So a business owner, let's just say you're really good at one thing. You're a great plumber. I don't know, right? So you're the best plumbing expert in all of Los Angeles area, and you decide, I'm going to hire some people, and you're like, well, there's two different people I can hire. Here's this guy who just kind of graduated school and has a little bit of experience, but isn't necessarily at my level. Here's another guy who's at my level or better. The cost difference between the two is substantial. I'm probably going to go for the cheaper guy and train them. Well, when you hire 4 people and you're training them, and you're working with them to become the same level that you're at, not only are you still doing your job and running the company, but now you're doing a percentage of their job. And if you're doing 25% of 4 people's jobs, that's 100% second job. You're really working 2 jobs to carry the weight of what they can't do yet because they haven't gotten up to your level. And that can be exhausting. So when I look back, I wish I would have stockpiled a little bit instead of sort of enjoying the lifestyle of an entrepreneur who, hey, we're making money, let's get the nicer cars and let's do the nicer things. If I would have stockpiled that so that I could afford to get someone who was better than me, I'd be able to step away a little bit from the business and have more time with family and more time to do hobbies and other things. But instead, I hired the lower cost resources and found myself doing more work and working more hours and doing 90 hours a week. So if I could go back, I would wait and hire the person who's better than me or at the same level.
Okay. So basically pay for expertise and bring them on earlier. Because one of the biggest problems with us as entrepreneurs is in the beginning, we do everything, right? And then you have to find out what you're good at and only do that. And that's me. I only talk to people. That's it. No paperwork, no nothing.
You do it great. You do an amazing job.
I do it somewhat of a good job. But what I mean, it's important to find out what you do well. And for me, I don't know if you know this, but I own a mortgage company. And for me, it's talking to clients and finding out what they want to do and why they want to do it and get them on the right path and then give it to my team to take care of. And the one thing I didn't hire for years. We had tons of loan officers at every company I ever had. And I just found they always took a lot of my time. Right. They were good, but they always took a lot of my time. I had to train them. And then I was like, I'm going to hire assistants. And I found that hiring more assistants to do certain parts of my job and I do what is required is built us so much greater. However, the negative side of that is just like you said, I have to talk to everybody. Right.
That's true. Yep. I have Christine on our team here, and Christine she's like the backbone of our group in terms of making sure that everyone has what they need and that emails are getting checked even when we're not available to check emails. Even while we're chatting right now, she's probably in mine sorting through and filtering and replying to things that I might not need to. So those little bits of help are the sand in your shoe, right? And so when you can get that out of there, you can climb the mountain and not have the pain of the sand always bugging you, you know?
Right. No, I totally agree. I mean, you need to hire those people, and you need them hire them when you really can't afford to hire them. Pay yourself less. And I know
Absolutely.
you're saying about LA is expensive. It is. It's always been expensive.
Everything, gas, the
Yeah,
whole thing is it's just so expensive to live here.
it's California in general now. Now
I
it's
want
everywhere.
out.
I don't want out. I'm fighting. So I want to stay. I want to get these people out who are causing the problems. They can go somewhere else. I want to
There
stay.
you go.
I have 32 acres up in Twain Harte, which is where we're going to build our
Nice.
forever home. And it's in the process. And it's like, I'm not going to leave because one, I don't have to worry about weather. So,
Yeah.
But it's important what you're saying about hiring the right people, paying them well, but also and you were talking about talking to other people in the industry that you want to be in and how to do it. But it's also having the right mentors, coaches, cornermen, whatever you want to call them, around earlier so they can help you. A lot of people say, well, I can't afford that. And I'm going to tell you right now, my coach that I have now, I couldn't afford him when I first got him, but it was an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely. And the things that they teach you and the foundation they help create for you will save you so much money and help you make tenfold what you probably would have charged, or because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They're going to give you the templates, the checklists, the processes, the do's and don'ts, and the headaches you're going to save, the risks you're not going to have to take. There's so much that you get from that. We've got 4 different people that help us in different areas. One most recently is Will Pemble, who is one of the co-founders of web.com back in the day. And Will comes in and he just shakes the place up. And it's just amazing when he leaves. We're all just inspired to shake the Etch-a-Sketch on how we do things and improve and grow. And he'll ask questions like, well, why the hell are you doing that? And we're like, I don't know. Why the hell are we doing that? So he's just such an amazing person and has been such a great mentor for our business.
that's great. I mean, I don't know if you know Steve D. Sims is, or Steve Sims, however you know him. You don't know? Oh, geez. And he's in LA. You would think you would know him.
Oh yeah, I know all the people in LA.
Yeah, I don't. It's just like everybody. You should know everybody.
Right.
I met him at a conference, mortgage conference, but he's totally. You should check him out. He wrote the book Blue Fishing, and he's changed my whole life talking to him because he's the same way. He's just one of those do this, and he connects me to so many people that I need to be connected to, which is what you need also, because it's not the famous quote is it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's still there. I mean, you need to know some things, but it's really who you know to get connected to get what you need done.
And people want to help. You just have to have the courage to pick up the phone, call them. Hey, I'm a huge fan. I'd really love to talk to you sometime, and if I need to pay you for it, I will. Sometimes they'll charge you for the consulting thing. Sometimes they'll say, sure, I'd love to help you. What can I do for you? Hey, in fact, what are you doing right now? You want to go to lunch? It's like, really? And so you'd be amazed at how much people would be willing to help and guide you if you just reached out and asked.
And the funny part you just said is on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how, because I get on my staff, like I send an email. It's like, okay, grow up, get my age. You call them. You don't rely on email and text unless they're in a place where part of our people that we deal with, the agents and stuff, they have horrible cell coverage. So you have
unless
to
you're
text
talking
them.
to a 13-year-old influencer.
Right. Yeah, you need to call them. People want to hear people, if it's going to take 2 lines, just call them and make sure they understand what you're talking about. Because I always say you can't get the tones and inflections when you're texting or email. Too many people take it wrong.
So
all right.
true.
So we didn't even talk about kind of what you guys do at all, which is, not a bad thing. So we could always have you come back and talk more about SEO and other stuff that you do on the digital marketing stuff, if you're up for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we go today?
No, just if you want more of this kind of advice, reach out. I'm like I mentioned, these consultants like myself love to help and support you. So if there's something that I can do just to be a second set of eyes, to be your wingman, just to answer a simple question like what software should I be using, or what's a way to measure success in digital or something like that? What are some classes I could take? Of course, I'm going to pitch my classes, but
of course,
by all means, reach out.
What's your classes, by the way?
What's that?
What's your classes? You didn't pitch them. You said you're going to pitch them, but you didn't say what they are.
Two the college classes, right? The UC San Diego, Cal State Fullerton. But we also have a site called academyofsearch.com, and it's like a $600 class. But your listeners can sign up for free just using SEO Steve as a code. Just give me some feedback. Let me know what you think of the different the different modules that are in it. I'd love to get some feedback as we rebuild this thing. So it's Academy of Search. Use SEO Steve as the code, one word, and you'll get free access to it. And just please shoot me an email and let me know what you think and what you'd like to see improved.
Don't worry, I won't put that in the little notes of the thing.
So go for it. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, then when we publish it, we'll also let you know when we do that. We'll, so we publish on Tuesdays and then we do social media on Friday.
Sweet.
So that way you get a couple extra hits there. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, Steve. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to being on again and geeking out on digital marketing.
Yeah, because I don't want to go too much into it because I know that will take a lot longer than what we've just been doing. So I don't want to go too long, but I wouldn't mind having a second show. So I appreciate you coming back. And if you guys enjoyed what we do here, just remember, just share, and let people know what we do. And we appreciate it and follow us. And Steve, thank you again for being here today.
Thanks, Ed.